to order. Need to give a little brief statement pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. The various boards and committees representing the town of Grafton will conduct their public meetings and hearings via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. All votes will be roll call. Ask that you raise your hand if you have a question. Try not to talk over one another. We've gotten along pretty well. We don't need to mute everyone. The meeting will be recorded for public access at a later time. And if you are from the public, you need to identify who you are if you want to participate in the chat. So that being said, welcome everyone. It's Ken. Ken's not here.
Ken's here.
There he is. Sorry, the pictures keep changing on me. Ken, do you want to do the treasurer's report?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I think we should do the roll call.
Roll call, yep.
Right.
Thank you.
And John, the only committee member missing right now is, oh no, Paul's on, never mind.
Oh, no, I saw his name. I didn't see a picture, but I did see his name. There he
He's
is.
here.
Okay, no, it's like, I bet everybody sees a different, whatever it's called, Hollywood Squares on their own computer. So roll call for attendance, Jen Thomas.
Aye, here.
Here.
John Stevens present, Kristen Belanger, Justin Wood,
Here.
Paul Scarlett,
Here.
Ken Holberger,
Here.
Jim Gallagher.
Here.
I didn't see Jim. Hey, Jim. Sandy Brock
Here.
and Brooke Paget.
Here.
Okay, we have a full house. Now we will go to Ken.
Okay, does everybody have a copy of this, or I could screen share it nevertheless?
Probably
Screen share?
that would be a good idea. Everybody should have a copy.
But the host has disabled it though. The host, can you
Oh.
enable it? Here we go. All right. I don't know. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to first go back to fiscal 2021 because there is a special town meeting for 2021 that right before the annual for 2022. So this is 2021, and the only thing that we care about is down here under reserve funds. We are going to, as we always do, we're going to transfer the Affordable Housing Trust reserve to the Affordable Housing Trust. And that's $60,692. Okay, so that's the only thing that's remaining on fiscal 2021. So going back to 2022, first I'm going to call your attention to this summary of the summary at the bottom. This shows that at first we're starting 2022. We have the budgeted reserve, according to my ever loosening estimates, is just under $200,000. The 10% reserves, the three of them, in aggregate, I think we'll have about $40,000 left, leaving 238. Then the revenue for 2022 is estimated above to be 650,000. So that'll leave us with about 885,000 to work with this year. And of that, the bond payments total 142,000. The expenses are 24,000. And I've been keeping track of the 3 grants that I'm aware of, which would total 340,000 should we vote them and should the town accept them. And that leaves 380,000. So barring, if you add this number back in, if you say we didn't do that, or we're not counting that yet, then we have about $720,000 to work with. So now I'm just giving a little bit more detail at the top. This is the revenue right here. This number here is simply 2.5% of what the prior years were, and the prior years haven't been updated exactly, so that's not quite an exact number either, but it's close. It's in the ballpark, and I think if the error is the actual number will be higher than that. The next line is a state match, and we have no idea what that's going to be. Not even a clue. Not the slightest clue. So I just put in the same number as we had last year, $141,000, and that's where I got the $649 in fiscal year 2022 revenue that I mentioned a few moments ago. These are the reserves. It's the administration reserves, the 3 10% reserves, and the 2 bond funds, the bond payments I mentioned. And that's going to take that'll come out of the revenue account, and that takes it down to 288. And just for your information, the Pell Farm bond payment went down a little bit. It's the 13th payment of 20. The Grafton Common bond payment is the 7th of 20, and it actually went up a little bit. And that's just due to the peculiarities of the deal that the treasurer made with the bonding agencies. And so it's not material, but it's going to stay about the Grafton Common bond payment is going to stay about the same for the remainder of the 20 years. So now there are three grantees requesting money, and if we did them, this could be one of them, the Lions Club. Under the carried over funds, that's called the undesignated fund. Again, we haven't talked to the accountant about it exactly, but my estimate that this number here is close to what it's going to be. Then perhaps we'll approve the Whitney Park, and that is 83,000 could come out of this account. And so that would leave, if we do both those things, we'll have $225,000 more or less to work with for other projects of any type in this fiscal year. The next is the reserve funds. And the first number here is the ones that we carried over from last year, plus the 10% for this year, leaves this amount of money. There's 2 debits projected from these funds. One is perhaps the invasive weed investigation is requesting $17,000. That could come from the open space reserve. And the Affordable Housing Trust would empty the account again a year from now. So bottom line is that if we do those grants and we get the revenue we expect, we'll have about $380,000 left over, which is a good amount. Any questions?
Anyone have questions? If hearing none, do I have a motion to approve
Move to
the,
accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, starting with Jen Thomas.
Aye. Aye.
John Stevens, aye. Kristen,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Jim,
Stephen Gallagher, aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
and Brooke.
Aye.
Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Clerk's report, I think. um, uh, we don't have a report, right?
We do.
We do? Okay.
Yep.
Did anybody have, because I didn't get it, I didn't print it. Do I have a motion to?
I'll move that we accept the minutes with any changes noted in discussion.
Okay,
Second,
I have a motion second. Are there any items of discussion on the minutes? Hearing
It all
none.
looked pretty good.
Hearing none, all those in favor, starting with Jen Thomas,
Aye.
John Stevens, aye. Kristen,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Paul,
Scarlett, aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Brooke.
Aye.
Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Joanne, for the minutes. Next on the list, we have 3 proposals before us at this point for annual town meeting, and to give them each adequate time for discussion, I'm going to try to limit it to about 15 minutes so we don't spend a whole lot of time. We've got a lot of people waiting to do different reports. Unless people have questions that go beyond that from the committee, we'll try to stick to the 15 minutes. And so we will start with the documentation, field investigation, and documentation of the invasive aquatic weed infestation proposal. Is it Mr. Nelson who would like to speak?
Yes. I'm here.
Okay, if you want to introduce yourself to the committee, just give us a real like 2 or 3 sentence background on you, and then go into your proposal.
Okay, I'm Bill Nelson. I live at 88 George Hill Road in Grafton. I've been on the Lake Quinsigamon Commission for 2 years. My background is I'm a physicist, and I worked in research and development all these years before I retired. I am now retired.
Okay.
Okay, a fairly brief couple-minute overview of this, since we did submit a very long application, and I'll answer questions afterwards that you have in the application. But the couple of things I want to say is, first of all, I'll talk about a very brief overview of our grant application. That has 2 parts. And then I'll also mention some contributing factors to our application, and that has 2 parts. So first, we are applying for this grant because Flint Pond, Hovey Pond, and the section of the Quinsigamon River connecting them, which are largely in Grafton, are heavily infested with aquatic invasive alien weeds. And the Lake Quinsigamon Commission, which has been treating these invasive weeds in Lake Quinsigamon watershed, basically located in the Shrewsbury and Worcester area, find that to be successful, it is necessary to treat the whole watershed, not just a part of it. This is why we are expanding our treatment to include water flowing into the lake from Boylston as well. The other thing for leading us into this is that since state and federal authorities, such as the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program at Mass Wildlife, require an intensive field investigation and documentation of any weed infestation and presence or absence of endangered plant and animal species before allowing any continuous invasive weed maintenance treatment to commence, we are applying for a one-time grant to fund this required field investigation and documentation. Now, the 2 contributing factors to this application are: 1, Reviewing the past efforts of the Lake Quinsigamon Commission on this subject in Grafton Waters, done using Lake Quinsigamon Commission funds, we saw that the weeds in Hovey Pond were field investigated and documented in 2019, and the weeds in Flint Pond were field investigated and documented 5 years ago. Thus, we do not need to repeat those parts of this legally required effort, greatly reducing its cost. But what is missing from a complete documentation of the present state of these Grafton waters to satisfy all state and federal regulations are two sets of data. The first, are there any chemical pollutants in Flint Pond and its sediments? And what are the levels of those pollutants? And two, if the blockages instituted during World War II for Wyman Gordon's armaments production activity and the water flow in and out of Flint Pond, which turned that pond into a stagnant weed-choked body, could be reversed to return Flint Pond to an open water body again. This is important, and since that armaments production has long since ceased, because if it is possible to return Flint Pond to its past state as an open water body by changing its flow patterns back to something resembling its original state, that would become a much better recreational resource for Grafton instead of a stagnant swamp. But its future weed treatment costs will also be greatly reduced in perpetuity. That is a very brief 4-minute summary of our application.
Great, thank
I would be
you.
glad to answer any questions about details.
Okay, are there any questions? Ken,
My first question is, how would you go about determining what modifications were done to the flow so long ago? And what do you think you might be able to do about it?
That is part of the study, and I'm not an expert on this, and I won't be doing the study, but my understanding of what I've been told is that Flint, and this is a very brief summary, you can ask more details afterwards. The flow from Lake Quinsigamon proper into Flint Pond goes under Route 20 in 2 locations, one in the east and one in the west.
Mhm.
The one in the east is open, flows down to the dam and into Hovey Pond. The one on the west has more or less clogged up and is closed, so no water flows in there. And then water doesn't flow out of Flint Pond where it originally used to, because that long isthmus that comes up from the Creeper Hill roadside to almost to Route 20 used to have a large culvert across it, and that was where water flowed out into the dam. There was also a major brook that flowed into the west side of Flint Pond, and during World War II, for some reason, the Army Corps of Engineers ditched that and made it flow into the south end of Lake Quinsigamon. So there used to be 2 inlets into Lake Quinsigamon, that brook, into Flint Pond, sorry for that. That brook that flowed into on the west side, and then the flow into it from the west underpass under Route 20, and then the outflow was at that isthmus that comes up from Creeper Hill Road towards Route 20. And so what has been suggested and told to me is that if a culvert was placed in or a small bridge where there used to be a cut in that isthmus, that would allow water to flow out of Flint Pond towards the Hovey Pond Dam. Also, if that brook were, instead of being directed the flow into the lower end Lake Quinsigamon, re-entered Flint Pond, that would provide the water that way it used to be, and also a slight dredging that would need to be done to the west underpass under Route 20, similar to what the Lake Quinsigamon Commission has been told the state this spring is going to do to the west underpass, the east underpass that currently is getting clogged, that flowing from Lake Quinsigamon into Flint Pond.
any other questions?
Oh, can I add one comment I forgot about?
Sure. Yep.
Well, you've also been told that a strong reason for sampling the sediments in Flint Pond and finding out what pollutants there are there is important also for any decisions regarding directing water flow.
So if they find a lot of pollutants, they're gonna would they have to do remediation of the pollutants? Or would they say that we can't have the water moving because that'll stir it up?
That's a question that has to be answered. I do not know the answer. The result of that, it needs to be studied first, I've been told.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I can't see on the application. So the total amount of what it's gonna cost to do this research is how much?
It's the two parts are each roughly 9,000.
So Grafton will be funding the whole thing,
Yes.
and the part that we're funding, I don't know, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to do the whole, to do it. I just, for us, the place that you're doing this evaluation, it's within Grafton, right? Because I know it's
Yes.
It's a bigger.
The three locations are Flint Pond, which is about half in Grafton, the Hovey Pond totally in Grafton, and the section of the Quinsigamon River between Hovey Pond and Flint Pond is all in Grafton. So
Okay.
the north edge of Flint Pond is not in Grafton. The rest is in Grafton.
Okay.
John, I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Jen.
I just have a question on just technicality. We have not been able to do studies anymore? And are we able to do this type of project? That's just a general question. I mean, it sounds like it needs to be done for sure. I just want to make sure it falls within the law.
That's something we're gonna have to discuss, because we can use our administrative money to do studies. I believe that's how that was resolved previously. Jem, is your hand up?
It is, and I want to just point out the fact that that's the first time I learned how to raise my hand. Just a clarification, I believe you said, did you just say that you're looking for $9,000? The project cost on what I have here is 17,000.
The two parts. One part is roughly 9,000 for the testing of the pollutants and the sediments in Flint Pond, and the other half is 9,000 for doing the study on the reversing the flow of water into and out of Flint Pond to return it to its resemblance to the way it was originally before the World War II modifications to the flowage patterns.
All right, so you're asking for 17,000 though, so that would be 18,000. And I did that in my head, John.
Yeah, same in my head. I do not have those two documents right in front of me now, but they were attached to the application that lists the actual figures. And each one half of is roughly somewhere between $8,000 and $9,000.
Okay, because this is important right now. The application you filed is for 17,000. Are we going to just leave it at that?
If I can have a minute here, I'll try to dig up on my computer the actual document so I can quote you the actual price. It's
Sure.
Look on page 12 of the ESS group memo. I think that's what you're looking at. It says between 7,000 and 8,000. The cost to file and obtain permits to implement the vegetation management program would be likely the 7,000 to 8,000. Is that it?
yes.
And one's listed for approximately 9,000. So there's 9,000 and then 8,000.
Okay.
So we're good to leave it at 17,000 then?
Yeah, because if 9 and 8 is 17 in my
Is
head.
that in your head?
I did. Actually, I have a calculator.
Okay, I have a question for Sandy. Because this issue came before your committee, correct?
Yes.
So obviously, Conservation Commission was approached about this. And in fact, we took a vote and discussed it at a meeting, and obviously this type of work aligns with the Conservation Commission and some of the goals that we want to do, which is to, minimize invasives and so forth. In fact, another commission members on the meeting Jonathan Nickerson, and he's the Conservation Commission's representative on Quinsigamon committee. So I don't know if John, if you have anything to add, but we have discussed it, and obviously this totally aligns with what the Conservation Commission would like to do.
Don?
So I have nothing to add to that. We fully supported it in our Conservation Commission meeting. I've been working with Bill on it, and we've also got Peter Collins from the Lake Quinsigamon Commission on the meeting as well. So it was supported by both as something that would benefit Grafton greatly. So that's all I'd add.
Sandy, another question that I might have for the Conservation Commission. Do you have, since this is one of your priorities or goals, is there any funding available, any accounts that you might have to help with a match if CPC were to fund this?
So that's a great question. And we do have funds available to do certain, of course, it's all based on where the money comes from. And I'm just thinking of one area where we get certain funds from permits and so forth, and we can use them in a certain manner. I would be happy to try to confirm that we could, because I don't think the Conservation Commission would mind using some of our funds to do that. But I would have to check with the Conservation Commission as a whole, and also
Okay.
double check, because each one of the funds we have has different potential uses based on state law.
Okay, that would be good, because I think that certainly, I think this sounds like a good proposal, that would make it a stronger application, because Mr. Nelson, we like to see applications have some type of matching funds, whether it's an in-kind contribution of your labor, your group, the labor of your group, or financial contribution from another grant or fundraising, or whether it's from the Conservation Commission if they have a fund that's available to support this. So if that were to work, that would just reduce the ask from 17,000 to whatever Concom could kick in to be the total amount of your grant.
Okay.
I
Two
do have one
comments
question.
on-
Oh,
Two
go ahead.
comments
second.
on that, to answer that. We have the chairman of the Lake Quinsigamon Commission, Peter Collins, on with us now. The Lake Quinsigamon Commission met last night and voted unanimously to support this strongly. And also, he can, besides talking about that, he could comment on your question about the possibility of matching funds.
Okay. No, I'm just saying that if Conservation, Grafton Concom has matching funds, that would help with your match. If you have other matching funds, all the better. But I'm just helping you to try to cobble together as many other funds so that we're not using all of our money if possible. Mr. Collins?
Understood.
You don't like my floor.
I got to make sure I'm not muted. I do that all the time. Thank you. Yeah, from our perspective, this is a project we think, it's been on the list of things that we've wanted to do, and I know that when Brooke was a selectman, I approached the town of Grafton for funding the treat weeds, and we brought up this issue of how Flint Pond got to where it is today, where it used to be a vibrant body of water. We had the honor of having one of the residents on Faulkner Road on our commission for a period of time, who'd been around for a long time. He told us, they water skied and swam and had beaches over there. And anyone who's been down there lately will know that that's, far from the case now. So we're excited about this, and this opportunity came up. So we're, I can't speak for the commission because that would take a vote for me to say how much funds we can commit, but I certainly believe that we would be able to commit some type of funding to contribute on to this. And I was thinking that if there was a shortfall between, 17 and 18 or $19,000, we probably, work to make that up. If there's anything like that going on. So that's kind of where we are. We're going to treat in Flint Pond, in the Grafton side, all of Flint Pond on there, the east side of Flint Pond, we call it, this year. It's like always, it'll be overrun with Eurasian milfoil and probably fanwort, I think, over there too. So we will be treating it there as well, in conjunction with this effort. So we're spending money there a
Thanks.
lot. And we
Okay.
did test on Hovey Pond. That's the other thing we've done and made a weed map and figured out what we need to do there. And we'll probably, there's a chance to treat there, although I don't know exactly how that'll play out yet, because that part of the plan isn't confirmed on our end, but we should know that by March.
Okay, that's
So
good.
if we're done with this question, I have a slightly different question.
Okay.
This project that's being proposed here for this committee is it looks like it's a very small piece of a much larger plan. Can you tell us about the much larger plan?
Is that
I
just to me?
could, but Peter has been chair and on the commission for a much longer time. I think he could go much further back in history than my 2 years on the Lakeland Sigmund Commission.
Yeah, I'm not asking necessarily about history, but what are the intentions for this area, of which this is a small piece?
That's actually an excellent question. The surface answer to that is we'd like to explore reclaiming this part of the pond as the vibrant water body it once was. And that would do a couple of things. One, it would return recreation and usage to the residents of Faulkner Road and of, I believe they call it the Flint Pond Estates, which is right beside it. It would also improve flow. So from a natural aspect to bring the lake back, not to get too far back in history, but Lake Quinsigamond has been a densely developed body of water since the 1800s. So we're essentially, there's a lot of man damage here, we'll say, that through this and that, man has manipulated and changed the flow and done other things and dumped stuff into Lake Quinsigamond. And the stream that we're talking about was in Grafton, so that's why that part of it is included in this study. But it was all done above board and legal. There was no hanky panky going on per se, but we'd like to explore reclaiming that and seeing if we can recover some of that damage and just bring it back as best we can to a more vibrant water body. So
Will this have effects on the Quinsigamond River downstream?
Yeah, well, in
As
two
it
ways.
flows through Grafton, which
Yes, in
it flows through that, across, goes across the road by Washington Mills, then it goes, then it flows south through town and out into the Blackstone.
Yeah, it will, in fact, we believe, improve flow down through the Quinsigamond River. Early in the season, when the water's high and coming through, we're going to start raising the dam, in fact, March 1st. So, but March usually brings a significant amount of rain, so the lake naturally goes up as well, and parts of the lake are spring fed and whatnot. So all of that, basically, everything that comes into Lake Quinsigamond from anywhere flows over the Irish Dam at some point and down through the Quinsigamond River into Lake Ripple and then beyond. So, and eventually ends up in the Blackstone and then into the Atlantic. So this will improve all of that. We have found milfoil in Hovey Pond, and I believe fanwort. And basically the only way that weed really would have got in there, because typically those types of weed, because they're spread by fragments, they'll be brought in by a boat, that has some part of the weed is stuck on the boat, or sometimes, very rarely, like a bird will bring it in or something. That's usually more of a seed issue. But milfoil is a fragment spread invasive, and it takes right away. So we believe that how that got into Hovey was through Flint Pond. And if you look at the section of Flint Pond in Grafton, that is essentially our highest concentration of Eurasian milfoil is right there. And, you know, part of the problem is that the water kind of gets in there and just gets stagnant because there's no flow. The brook used to push it kind of eastward once it got in around the corner there from Sergeant's Island, which is the isthmus that Bill was referring to. And now that doesn't occur. So not only that, there's another invasive in over here. If you bring your cursor down to the very southwest of the green area there, you see the little stripes there on the side. So that actually is starting to become overrun by a plant called purple loosestrife. And purple loosestrife literally looks like land. So when you look at it, you say, oh my God, that's land. And that of course blocks the flow, and it's treatable with chemicals actually, but it basically will take over, and it'll essentially look like the lake is gone. That's where the stream came in. So, you know, that in itself caused some issues over there.
Lake Ripple as well, just downstream, is choked with various kinds of weeds. I don't know whether they're invasive or natural, but it's becomes, you know, it's a mess, and it's directly down. It's the next biggest body of water downstream that you can now see on the screen.
Yes.
Do you know if the weeds in Lake Ripple are the same ones you're looking at in Hubby Pond?
I can't confirm that because we never did a weed map up there. I can research that though and find out what, because I think the town has done that. The town dredged that at a significant expense, actually.
Right, we know that because this committee wasted a huge amount of money on that, as well as the town. You wasted.
Okay, so you involved the other one to tell you about that stuff, right? So
it was a waste of money. You know,
yeah.
There was no difference.
Yeah, well, it was for a couple of respects. Is that, and this is something that we talked about before, is that if you don't treat the source, and we're finding this out in Lake Quinsigamond, I guess we're learning the hard way like everybody else. But if you don't treat the source, if you don't, you know, nip it there, then it's going to continue to happen. So you can clean out Lake Ripple every year, but if the milfoil is still flowing down from Flint Pond and getting into there, it's going to take in Lake Ripple. So that's just the nature of it. That's one of the reasons Bill brought up that we're treating Newton Pond. You know, all the way north of the Lake Quinsigamond proper, there's a lake called Newton Pond that's in Shrewsbury and partly in Boylston as well. And you know, we're taking over treatment of that because it's part of the watershed. The purview of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission is Lake Quinsigamond and its watershed. So, but we want to get as much preventative stuff going as we possibly can. Newton Pond is filled with milfoil.
So the question would be: is what treatments would you contemplate using in this area? Is it mostly chemical herbicides?
Yes, in Flint Pond, that's what we've been using for the last decade or so. And we're under permit. You know, we that's the challenge with our work, is because of course we go to Grafton Conservation and get permits from you and from the town of Shrewsbury and from the city of Worcester to treat in the lake, because you can't kind of separate it. You can't say, oh, I'm just treating in Grafton, so I just got to go to Grafton. That's not how it works. And even if I treat north of Grafton, and right now we're kind of in a moratorium that we can't treat anything north of Route 20 there because they found an invasive species called Vasii, which is a Potamogeton. It's a pondweed, but it's an endangered species. So, and and our mission is never to hurt the lake. We want to do, we don't want to do any harm. But so that's in there. So basically, right now, all we're treating with chemicals in this area, a little way north, in right by the Route 9 bridge, the New Burns Bridge. We're doing some treatments up there, and then further north we do treatments. But in between those, we don't do any.
So the Conservation Commission in Grafton and wherever, the Conservation Commissions are okay with those treatments?
Oh, yeah,
That's a-
yep. We
that's a
have,
question.
and it's part of a 5 year, to get back to your original question. So we have an ongoing lake management plan for invasive weeds. So our plan is to treat, like we did a treatment in Flint Pond, not last season, but the season before that, which we basically eradicated a lot of the milfoil over there. And that only lasts for a season because you don't get rid of it completely. Over time, we can do more and more stuff. But the original plan we had back in the 1990s allowed for one chemical called Diquat. And this chemical was great, and we got rid of the milfoil. We did a really good job. In fact, the milfoil kind of went away.
Yeah, what else does it get rid of?
And
Nothing.
I want to have to stop this because I can't see. There are a lot of hands and you're kind of having a little dialogue
Okay.
that we're
Okay,
excluding
yeah.
a lot of
My
other people.
question's answered.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Nope.
Nope, a lot of good information, but it's like, because I can't see people's hands, I can't.
Okay.
It's,
No worries.
so the screen sharing, there we go. Jim Gallagher.
I'm curious as with this increased water flow as to what effect, if any, it's going to have on the Stone Arch Bridge.
Good question. To be frank, I can't answer that. Early in the season, you're able to take kayaks down there, which if you've never done it, it's remarkable. It's a remarkable little run. That's my favorite part of it, is going underneath that bridge. Except the day I went under there and the train was actually going over. And, that's the bridge you're talking about, and that was a little scary.
Different.
I don't know what it's
different
going
If I
bridge.
can add a comment to that,
Yes.
Oh, you're talking at 122 and 140 by the.
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. The lake is going to seek its own level, so I think that's probably going to be similar to where it is now. The improvement in flow is going to be a gradual thing. It's not like it's going to turn into white water. The second we do all this and dredge it out, it's basically going to get kind of at its own level. And we also control the dam going up and down. So there is some control measures there, as well as there's control measures at Hovey, which they just rebuilt. So at the Hovey Dam, for example, we can tell exactly what the flow rate is, because you can do that too. There's a little app you can go on there. So we can, we have to regulate the lake so it doesn't go over a certain cubic foot per second rate, and that's how we do it. So there's controls in place at both the Irish Dam and at Hovey.
Okay.
can I add a
great.
comment to that?
Sure.
This is something that's done annually. Every fall, we slowly, over a month's period, reduce the level of the lake down approximately 2 feet to 18 inches. And every spring and April, we bring it up slowly, those 18 inches to 2 feet. So this is something that's been done every year in the past. It's not some new flow that's going to occur.
Okay. Thanks. I know I'm not seeing all my pictures, but are there other hands that are up that I can't see? Joanne, can you tell if there are other hands?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any others.
I don't see any.
Okay.
either.
Okay. Are there any other questions of Mr. Nelson or Mr. Collins? That was a lot of good information.
And I guess I have one more comment. It's been said that this committee is not supposed to do studies. I would characterize this as a report, not a study. And so it seems to me it's not the same as the studies that we don't like to do. This is, going into the field, taking measurements and writing them up.
That's certainly going to be the product.
Yes. We've been told that you have to go in the field and take measurements. You can't do it any other way.
So I don't think this is not exactly a study.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your, Mr. Collins, if you
Yes.
can, in the next week or so, find out if there are some funds and what amount you think might be available. And Sandy, the same with Concom. if there are funds for a report that would might be available.
Yeah, we'll follow up and I'll just ask John to remind me and we'll send an email out to our agent. So thank you.
Great. Okay. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. Lions Club, Dennis. I see your picture and I think I did earlier see
Dave Robbins.
Dave
is there as well. Yeah.
Robbins.
Yeah, Dave's around here somewhere.
There he is. You're right in the front of, right in the middle. I don't know why I can't see you.
With all the
So-
dead soldiers.
Whichever wants to take the lead.
Okay, well, thank you for having me to your meeting. I'm Dennis Perrin. I'm currently the president of the Lions Club. And I want to start off by thanking the committee for having faith in us and getting us the money we needed to engineer and build our driveway. I know the people that use our facility, the more than 5,000 people, thank you for saving their mufflers and the rest from the bumpy road that we used to have. The driveway is complete. We do have some engineering that we asked to be held over. We would like to engineer parking areas along the soccer field. Right now, it's on bare grass, and when the cars pull in there in the spring, they tend to rut it out and kind of ruin the edges of the soccer field. So there's some engineering that still needs to be done. That's why we're asking to hold over that amount. The next thing we'd like to do is provide the more than 5,000 people that use our property in the course of a year some bathroom facilities other than porta johns. We've had porta johns there since forever because we don't have any outdoor bathrooms. We have one small bathroom in the clubhouse that's not used very much. So our request this year is to build the bathroom facilities and of course the septic system, because there is no town sewer servicing that particular area. And we're requesting $175,835 for the bathroom and for the septic. Now, I did provide a drawing of the bathroom, which was attached to my application. The bathroom will be built on the eastern side of our building. So if you look at if you can imagine our building, Joanne's going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Are you going to show that drawing,
I am.
Joanne?
Yep, it's going to take me a second to,
Okay. Now,
I make these packets and then can't figure out where I've put everything.
while she's scrolling to that, I'd just like to say that the bathroom design is designed by the same architect that designed the one at Nelson. And he kept the same spirit of the Nelson bathrooms with the Grafton Lions, what we requested at the Grafton Lions. So they're similar. There'll be block buildings. And as you can see, it'll be 2 handicap bathrooms. And mechanical room and storage closet. Now, the mechanical room and storage closet will be accessible from inside the Lions building, so we can easily enter those areas. The entrance to the bathrooms will be outside. So this will help us in a couple of ways. First of all, it'll give our patrons a bathroom that they can use, and second of all, it'll cut down on the expense that we have every year paying for porta toilets. We have had 2 on the property year round for the last 4 or 5 years that I can remember. And of course, the soccer league also puts up a porta toilet for their people as well. So they're well used, and I think this is going to be very adequate for the public use that we need. Now, as far as in-kind donations, Pete Adams is our main guy. He's on our committee. He couldn't be here tonight because he has a zoning board of appeals meeting. He assures us that Lions will do some of the labor involved in that septic system. Spreading the stone, whatever needs to be done. So there will be labor provided by both him with his machinery, as well as Lions members, hands-on, putting that septic system together.
Was that included in your, I don't think that was included in the bid though, right?
Well, I didn't know how to put the in-kind amount, because I didn't know what amount to put in there.
Mhm.
Except that I do know that Pete did say that the Lions would be doing some work on the septic. Matter of fact, when he asked for the design, he asked to make sure that that the things that are put in there can be handled by hand rather than by machine. So he could probably explain it to you better, but he did tell me that that we would be doing some of the labor ourselves.
And would that possibly reduce the actual cost of the project? Or that would be,
Well, it very well could. I think the bids that the quotes that he got quotes from Earthworks for the septic system, and that did not include the labor. That didn't include labor. That was just materials. That's stone, piping, bladders, whatever else goes into a septic system of that size. And so I didn't know how to put that in the form.
okay. And is this going to be heated? Is this going to be a year round, or will it be closed out in the winter?
No, we plan on having it heated.
Okay,
Currently, we heat our building with propane. I believe that the heating that we're going to put in there would be electric. So we'd have electric heating in the building itself. We have to have it year round because the property is actually used year round, not only by dog walkers, but Grafton Recreation just had, I think, 4 or 5 programs over February school vacation on the property. So it is used year round. So we plan on heating it.
do the Lions, would you have a company service them for the cleaning, or would the Lions take care of that if they're going to be open year round?
We plan on doing our own maintenance. We plan on maintaining the bathrooms and doing the cleaning as well.
Okay. Does anyone have a question? I see Kristen's hand.
So for the hours of operation of the bathrooms, are they, would someone from Lions have to unlock them if there's a program going on? Or are they open for set hours during the day?
Well, to be truthful with you, those are still plans that are on the drawing board. We'd like to just leave them open. However, we have to judge on, sometimes there is vandalism that happens down there. So we do have cameras and we do have pretty adequate lighting. But we also have people that can go down in the evenings and lock them up if we really need to.
Because I did have some problems at Minor Field with those bathrooms, and Jen Anderson might be able to help you with information about that, or Krista would know, right? Is that one of your?
Yeah, we've had several issues with vandalism at Minor Field, like you had mentioned. But we definitely would want to have access to the bathrooms for all the programs like you're talking about. I just make sure that, everybody would have access to the bathroom, not just specific groups.
Well, Kristen, was
Okay.
your vandalism at night or was it during the day? You know?
I'm assuming it's at night, but I don't know when it actually happened.
Well, because there is an alternative where we could put time locks on the doors so that during the evening hours they lock and in the morning they open up. I used to own a laundromat and that's what I did with my doors. So it's common that can happen. So that's something we could think about as well.
Okay, Paul has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. So if I'm understanding correctly, part of this project will be to provide heat to the bathrooms, but it's going to go beyond that. It'll actually be updating the heating system for the whole building. Is that correct?
No, it will not. We, as I said, we have propane heat in our building, and this would be a separate project. These would be separate heaters for the bathroom.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other hands. Dave, did you want to add anything?
I can't say that I have much to add. I think, Dennis and Peter have been much more on top of this lately than I have. It did occur to me that for what it's worth, I think we have the porta potties out there pretty much year round, and even if it's not year round, it's when they are out there, they're basically open day and night.
Mhm.
And I'll grant you that porta potties and permanent bathrooms are not quite the same thing, but I don't think we've ever had any problem with vandalism in the porta potties. It's never
Okay.
been an issue. It's never been an issue for them, the fact that they're there all the time and they're never locked. Yeah, things may be slightly different with the permanent bathrooms, but we do have a pretty active club, and club members are always pitching in to help out around the property and keep things in order and maintained. So I think I really have no concern about the club's ability to manage and maintain this. And as has been pointed out, these are very clearly being kept separate from the internals of the existing club building. That, as Dennis pointed out, just an access door for maintenance purposes. But all the mechanical is completely separate, except I think the plumbing is working off of our existing water supply. But so that's probably about the only thing that is connecting into the existing building is the water. Correct, Dennis?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah,
Jim?
Can I just add, in picking up where what Dennis had said, I got a call last night from Peter Adams, who had originally expected to be at this meeting and to explain all of the things that the Lions Club was prepared to do in doing a lot of this build out. And he unfortunately had a brand new meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that conflict is pulling him away from this. But if anyone has anything specifically that they need from Peter, I'd certainly be glad to pass it along.
Okay,
I
All right.
only have one just quick question. I don't know if it would really matter. What's it cost per month for the porta potties? Or per year?
I want to say it's $150 for the month for each porta potty, so $300 a month sounds about right.
Okay.
and they're not handicap accessible, correct?
Um,
Or are they?
yeah, one of them that we had was a handicap porta toilet, and I think that's the one that's still there. We'll bring that back for the summer for when I know that there's a lot of activity by Fin and Feather through the Recreation Department for the summer, so we always try to have two there for the summer.
Okay. Okay, if no one else has a question. Dennis and Dave, thank you. And Bill, you're more than welcome to stay. I certainly don't expect you to. Bill Nelson, you're more than welcome, but you don't need to.
No, I've never attended one of these meetings. I just found it interesting. I know
Okay.
Dave as well, so I thought I'd listen.
Okay, well, I didn't want to torture you because these aren't always the most interesting thing you might do on a Thursday night.
Can I just get a clarification? Bill knows Dave and he still wants to stay at the meeting?
Yeah, Bill is sitting probably no more than a few hundred feet away from me. We are almost next door neighbors.
All right.
And have been
Okay.
for a long, long time.
Okay, thank you. So up next is going to be Whitney Park and Ray Mead.
Well, good evening, everyone. Engine Company 2 Association is proposing to create a community park at Whitney Park in North Grafton, which is right across from Engine Company 2. As I said, it's a community park, so it's not just for children. It's for everybody, along with a walking path with exercise stations, places for people to sit under trees, under canopies. We also want to put in a water park. A water park, that sounds like there's slides and all kinds of stuff, but it's not even close to that. But something for the kids. and add more parking to the area and create a somewhat, probably 90% maintenance-free community park in North Grafton. And as everybody knows, Engine Company 2 did the Roni Park down at corner of Bridge Street and North Main. And we are proposing to do the exact same thing here as far as providing labor, material and equipment, and also signing an agreement, just like we did at Roni Park, for a maintenance agreement for 10 years, starting at 10 years. I have received 2 engineering quotes. One from Thompson and Liston Associates, and they're out of Boylston. I've worked with Thompson and Liston for 25 years. They're very, very good. I also got contacted Bayside Engineering, and they did the Roni Park, and they said that they were not able to do this, so they got me to Stantec. If anybody knows Stantec, Stantec is a national engineering company. They provide all types of engineering from structural to environmental to gas stations to buildings. And the difference in the prices was dramatic. The Stantec's price was $296,000 for engineering for a 1.15 acre community park. And Thompson and Liston was $68,000. Both include a landscape architect firm and structural design. One thing that Thompson and Liston didn't put in theirs that Stantec did put in theirs was the design of a small maintenance building. So the water feature or the water splash pad requires a filtering system, a cistern, and a place to store chemicals. And they didn't include that. I included it in my proposal to the committee, which was for $83,000. $1,600 is going to come from affordable housing because they've agreed to do the site survey of the property, and Engine Company 2 will provide on the design and engineering $20,000 of in-kind labor. So we'll be working with Thompson and Liston to help them through the process and get all of the work done.
Let me make sure I'm understanding. Your affordable housing is going to pay for a survey of the park or
Yes.
of Perry Hill Park.
But well, they agreed, and Bruce is on, I know, but they agreed to survey Perry Hill and Whitney Park and provide us with the survey.
Can I also clarify so that we should change your application from 80,000 to 83,000 in CPA fund request?
Yeah, actually, Jim, that was a mistake. And I had sent it to Joanne, and I could not change the $80,000 to $83,000. And Joanne said she was going to try, but obviously it didn't work. But it is $83,000.
Right, so we can just kind of
Jo-
make our-
Joanne never got a chance today to try.
no,
so
I'm
I'll
not
try
saying-
again. I'll
No,
try
Joanne,
again.
I'm.
No, I know.
Trust me.
I think I can fix it, but I didn't have time.
I'm
today.
not sure. I'm not sure why I couldn't fix it. I couldn't go back. It was like stuck there, and I couldn't change it. So that's it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to work with Recreation. I have met with Recreation. Recreation's in favor of this. They're meeting on Monday night for a formal vote and a letter to produce a letter to CPC committee in voicing their favorability of this project. So we will be working with Recreation on the design Obviously not the engineering, but the design of the park and what we're going to put in it.
One thing that stood out for me in the Stantec proposal, at least, I didn't catch it in Thompson Lipson, was Stantec called out explicit number of planning board meetings they were willing to attend as
I
two.
know Thompson and Liston has that also.
Yeah, I can imagine the planning board number being more than two, depending on the outcome there. So I don't know if that,
Well, it's very possible that they may have to go over on that. There is some fluff. I say fluff. There is some contingency money in this number
Yep.
for Thompson and Liston to go over on meetings. So,
okay.
but they
I
will
see.
attend the meetings.
Oops, sorry. I see Bruce spinning his hand.
Yeah, just briefly, I caught about half of what Ray said. I didn't know if he needed me to lend an opinion for what, how we got to providing the money for the survey. There's two parks there. We're looking at at both, and they of course are right across the street. So there was some efficiencies for us finding the information about the name escapes me, not Whitney, but the other park for using that property for some affordable houses. So that's why we kind of lended our expertise and some of our money, because it would work better for us to go out and grab an engineer or survey team just to do some quick work. And then, of course, they're right across the street. So.
Okay, my only concern is that it's the money from the settlement rather than the money we've given you, because I don't think our money from CPC can be used for the park survey, Whitney Park survey, because it's not affordable housing. if
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
Makes sense.
Yep, that was also discussed when we got to that point as well. So the Pulte settlement account would be used for this type of work anyways.
Okay.
After we get to the point where we want to move forward with the affordable housing project there, should it be a tenable project, that's when we would use the housing reserve.
Okay, Jennifer Thomas.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I really have a really hard time with this project. I have a lot of reservations. First of all, Whitney Park is a historical common, so I'm not really sure why we would destroy a historical common to build a playground when there's a playground just a block away. It also, in the open space and recreation plan, they called for, what we had found was that people wanted more open space just to do unstructured recreation. So I'm not quite sure how that fits in with the open space and recreation plan. Worried about parking, what you described as a destination playground. With all of those amenities, you would think people would be coming from other places, and there just isn't enough space to park. And you have the big trucks turning around there. We also don't even know yet if that land can be developed for affordable housing. So it kind of feels like we're putting the cart before the horse. I would rather figure out if that affordable housing piece can work first before we go down this road. Also, you didn't mention anything about bathrooms. If it's a neighborhood park, I guess they can go in their own homes, but if it's a destination park, you really should be providing bathrooms. So at this point, it just really doesn't make any sense to me. I think it would be great if the engine company helped, with stuff at Perry Hill Park or at Whitney, and made kind of enhanced what's already there instead of destroying a historical common to put in a playground. So that's my 2 cents. So I am not in favor of this project.
John, if I can just comment on that.
Sure.
I hear what Jen's saying. You'd really have to go up there and look at Whitney Park. It is a piece of grass that has not been maintained in 40 years. The highway department cuts the grass once, maybe twice a year. There is a sidewalk that goes through it, and that's it. No one uses it. No one uses it for recreation. No one uses it for anything. As far as parking goes, we're taking that into account. The park itself, the actual park itself is 1.15 acres. The space that you see there is less than an acre, just a little bit less than an acre. Our plan is to put parallel parking on all the way around the park and take the remaining parking, the remaining area that's actually paved and make it parking. So I guess I don't agree with not improving something that's there. Roney Park and that bridge sat there for 50 years and no one did anything. And it was overgrown and it was awful. And now it's beautiful. We want to do that again. So we want to create a park that's a community park that everybody can go to. So
Does anybody want to see a map of it? Not hearing anything.
Sure, it would be helpful.
I just don't think that sitting, that a piece of grass sitting there with absolutely nothing on it, not being used, is in the town's best interest.
This is it right here, correct? That's it, right?
Yes, that's it. Yep. That is
I don't think-
Whitney Park.
Jen's not saying don't do anything, but you're to clarify to clarify the issue of the Perry Hill Park. Can that park actually be turned into affordable housing? I think that's the first question that needs to be resolved is, can that park be turned over to the Affordable Housing Trust? Does, what committees in town have to approve that before it goes to the state? What of a process is involved for that? And then if that's the case, that's approved, then you say, okay, then we do Whitney Park, because otherwise then you're gonna have a piece of land that you cannot use for anything else other than a park. If the state or the town decides, no, we don't want to change the nature of Whitney Park or Perry Hill Park. And Sandy's a lot better. I'm not versed at all. She's very well versed, it sounds like, in the rules regarding that. So she might be able to give us some input on that.
Yeah, so this is Sandy, and just to, when you start talking, that's that's a specific article that a piece of land has to fall under. And so the first thing you do is you need to determine that. And if it is Article 97, then you have to get it out of Article 97, there's a process. One is you have to go to the state legislature and get it voted on. That's much more, it's almost a political process. And then the second part of it is you have to designate that some other property as open space, recreation. Yeah. And that gets into the more legal stuff, which gets beyond me. So I know that this particular parcel that they're talking about is already open space. I think it's the area that you're talking about to be affordable housing. Is that correct, John?
Right, that Perry Hill is once was a school and a playground, and now it's a playground. And
and just because it's a playground doesn't mean it automatically falls under Article 97. It's a little bit more legal kind of assessment of how that parcel became open space and whether it was dedicated for a playground, recreation, open space, and then it gets protection under Article 97.
I can speak to that if you would like.
Oh, yes.
As part of updating the inventory of open space for the open space and recreation plan that is about to be submitted to the state in its final form, I spent a considerable amount of time digging into records and looking to see if we could find reliable evidence about each of the parcels of land that we have as open space. I wanted to find out if I could
whether they were in fact Article 97 lands. And it turns out that Perry Hill Park is Article 97 land. There's a town meeting vote, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was designated by town meeting vote as a park, as a public park. And that as such, it very definitely does fall under Article 97. And Sandy, you've largely pretty accurately characterized the process. In this case here, as it's recreation land, I believe the Conservation Commission and the Recreation Commission, or technically, I think it's the Board of Selectmen acting as park commissioners, both have to vote to that this land is surplus. It requires a 2/3 vote of town meeting, of course. It then goes to the legislature, requires a 2/3 vote of both houses of the legislature to approve the transfer of this land to some other use. The question of whether it needs to be replaced by land of equal value for equal purpose is, I think, a little bit open-ended, and I'm not sure I could reliably answer that. In many cases, there is a requirement to replace the land. Ultimately, though, it's a vote of the legislature, and there may be approval from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs involved. So there's a legal process that will have to be gone through before Perry Hill Park can be repurposed for affordable housing. And as much as I do know about it, some of the ins and outs, some of the details are, I can't say for sure, but I can say for sure we have documented evidence that this is Article 97 land.
And I definitely, I would agree with you. I know that there has been relatively recent policy around Article 97, and it's become much more of a hot button item. But it really is a legal kind of process. So at that point, this is where I say I'm not an attorney. So, but it can be a hurdle, but I have seen many parcels removed from Article 97 protection.
Yeah, I think in this particular case, given the size and nature of the parcel, it ought to be feasible to repurpose it. It is going to be time consuming, and will definitely require the guidance of counsel who is well versed in Article 97 details. It would be more worrisome if it was a larger parcel. If, for example, it was an open space or forested land. But given here that its primary use is, some of it's just part of it's basically unused at all. And the part of it that's used for recreation, we're basically proposing, with the Whitney Park proposal, you're proposing to move the recreation, essentially to move the recreation, not to lose the recreation land, just to repurpose some other land as recreation land. Whitney Park itself is also Article 97 land. It's dedicated again as a public park, which is one of several Article 97 purposes. But so they're both parcels are currently Article 97 as public parks. Moving the park use from one to another is a non-issue. Abandoning the less than 1 acre Perry Hill Park, I think it's less than 1 acre, repurposing it for non-Article 97 use ought to be doable, but not trivial.
John?
Jim, and then Bruce.
Okay, well, actually, my question was, is Bruce still on? Because when we did the affordable housing presentation the last time, it seems to me that Bruce spoke to Article 97 being developed by the Affordable Housing Trust for that piece of land. So I was led to believe that something was already underway that would really kind of push this forward without losing the recreation.
Bruce.
Just briefly, when we found out, and Mr. Robbins made us aware on the trust that this was an Article 97, we had already at that time gone out to bid to find a vendor to actually survey and do the work we wanted to do. That's how we knew where the price figure would be at. But then we decided as a trust that we were going to table this until we got some feedback from whether or not the town actually wanted to move forward with removing this from Article 97, which we knew was going to be a long process. I believe the trust still would like that land as a potential development piece. It's relatively short money to find out if it actually works. It's conducive with the neighborhood that's around it, or what we can actually fit in there. So if this project does move forward, the trust will take it up as another vote to see. We'll of course have to rebid it when we get to that point too, but I can't imagine it's going to be much different than what it came in at now. But I believe there's still an appetite there on the trust to actually, if we were moving in this direction, to have that parcel in our portfolio.
And then in effect, the article that we're looking at right now would take that space that is really historical though it may be, and there's no real use of it, but to make a usable gathering for recreation, that would then support the taking out of the other property from Article 97, showing that that recreational opportunity that was there has already been addressed by Whitney Park. So it seems that this seems to be the good first move to make, which then opens the door for affordable housing, which then opens up that neighborhood for more housing. And it just seems to cause a domino effect, and it's all good as far as I can see.
It seems to me, though, that we need to get the issue of Perry Hill resolved first. So that's one of the issues trying to write down, do we resolve that issue first before we move forward on Whitney Park? Or do we assume or not worry about it? And then we may have a park that can only be a park a block away, and then have a new park developed at Whitney Park. And most importantly, and I hope Jen, because I know I saw her in the waiting room, whatever it's called, attendee list, that Jen Anderson can speak to that, and Kristen, because I really want to know how what their perspective is on the movement, the relocation of the park from Perry Hill to Whitney Park. Is this part of the overall plan that they want to see? And if this is allowed, is there some other land that we have to buy to replace it? Even though it's, I don't know how many acres Perry Hill is, but I would think that if they're saying you have to replace, just like with conservation, if you destroy wetlands, you've got to replace it. You can't just say, oh, well, we're doing something really good over here. You have to do that and replace what you took. So to me, there are a lot of unanswered questions that hopefully some of them can get answered tonight, either by Kristen or both, by Kristen and Jen. And
John?
Yep.
We have a question comment from Jen Anderson.
Okay.
She said, I think it's two separate projects. Whitney Park will be its own project no matter what, which is what's in front of CPC. Whether affordable takes over Perry Hill is separate, is what she wrote.
Okay.
John-
Yeah, Kristen, and then I see Justin, and then Dave. Okay, so Kristen.
I think one thing to consider with this project too, we don't want to discourage people from beautifying unused spaces like Ray said. Nothing's there right now. Encouraging people to use that space, like everybody's on board with that. I think the letter that Recreation's getting together for Monday, maybe we can consider, I know Ray and your group, you have your ideas of what you want that park to be, but our biggest concern, since you're using CPC funds to build a recreational facility, that there's some kind of condition in there that you work with Recreation, which you mentioned you'd be willing to work with Recreation to determine like the uses for the park and the features. We might not be in alignment with what you envision that park to have. And that needs to be an ongoing discussion. So regardless of what happens with the Perry Hill playground next door, we could still develop that Whitney Park area, but maybe instead of a playground, it's, you know, the open field with the walking path and the benches and some other passive type things instead of two playgrounds right next to each other, or a splash pad that we don't necessarily, we may not agree that that's the most appropriate place for that type of use. So I think those things just need to be all worked out, but I think there's definitely potential for that space to be some type of neighborhood community / park.
And I agree, John, if I can speak, Kristen,
Sure.
I agree with that totally. You know, our plan, you know, since we had spoken to Recreation, our plan is to partner with Recreation on this project. Do we know, you know, ideas have been brought up of what to put there, how to do it and everything like that. And I've got, you know, hundreds of pictures of parks that are beautiful that cost $2 million. That's not our plan. You know, our plan is to create a community park and work with Recreation on what to put in that park. Now, the difference between Whitney Park and Perry Hill is a great spot for affordable housing. It is. There's no doubt about it. And I'm very confident that we can get that through the legislature. I'm really not concerned about that. Whitney Park is a larger space that we can have parking at. Perry Hill, there's no parking. There's none. You can't even create parking there unless you take, you know, two-thirds of the area, 2/3 of the 32,000 square feet that's there is nothing. So we look at it and say, we can beautify this area. We can provide a piece of property with a little bit of legislative work to create affordable housing in an area that's just, you know, brimming with apartments, and Grafton needs affordable housing, and we can provide a safe park for the community and include parking. But yeah, Kristen, my plan was to work partner along with Recreation.
Okay, I know I said there were some, I think Justin, then Dave, and I kind of see Ken next. So Justin?
Sure. So I wanted just to say that I do agree with Jim Gallagher as well. I think this is a situation to me where beautifying an unused space, making it usable is the priority. And Perry Hill, if that can get removed and that process works out in favor of the town, you know, being able to in favor of doing affordable housing, that's great. But that to me is a separate issue. And being able to see Whitney Park developed, you know, further make it usable as even a neighborhood park or destination, or however it works out, is to me a good idea and something that we should support bringing forward to the town to vote on. I think that's a major benefit. And, you know, to me, I like the idea of a splash pad there. I think even the small location is great, but that's not going to be for me to decide. And I think the potential for having the parts about what we were going to have as the Grafton Community Park near the library could fit in a smaller scale there. I don't know what will end up coming out of this, but I support pushing this forward. And
I'd like to butt in here
Okay,
and
wait,
and agree with Justin. You know, I
Ken,
think-
Ken, you're gonna have to wait.
Okay.
Dave's first, then Ken. Dave? You're muted, sorry.
I lowered my hand, but I forgot to take myself off mute. Sorry about that. Anyway, I just wanted to second or third or fourth the notion that the Whitney Park proposal should not depend upon a determination that affordable housing will or will not be done on Perry Hill. Yeah, for as long as I've been in any way involved in discussions on this, I like the idea of considering doing affordable housing at Perry Hill, but whether that happens or not, I think Ray and Engine Company too have a proposal that should be considered on its own merits for Whitney Park.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
I'd like to support what Justin just said and Ray Mead's point. I think both parks right now are could be described as desolate, and the idea of having the Whitney Park upgraded this year is a valuable thing, and I think it should be done.
One other thing that I've written down, I'm trying to read all my little notes, is Ray, have you been in touch with the naysayers, the people that were against the super park? Because they were very vocal and they were very successful in defeating that. And the consensus, or what that kind of the takeaway was, is they wanted neighborhood parks. They don't want a big community park. They don't want a super park. So I think that's another group that's going to have some, at least you have to make sure that you have buy-in, because they'll go to town meeting and vote it down. That would be another concern that I would have.
Yeah, John, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know who those people are. So, I don't know if there was some group that voted against it. Did they vote against it because of the money, because of the location, because of that? I'll try to find out who they are and talk with them, but I didn't think it was an organized group. But it's just, this is totally different from what Super Park was. Totally different. It's not even on the same planet. So,
well, I mean, but ultimately, right now the initial, it's 83,000 for the engineering. We don't know what the total cost of the park's going to be, a couple $100,000. And that's the concern, because I think every meeting I went to for Super Park, everybody was supportive. And then at town meeting, they came out with, and it was current selectmen and select women that were very vocal against it, and people saying we shouldn't even have CPC anymore because of this, that we should spend our money another way, have our taxes lowered by not having CPC. So that's, maybe this would be okay with them, but I wouldn't want, that's, I think one of the things that we do with CPC is we try to, if it's a project that we recommend, we want it to succeed. So we don't want to set you up to get blindsided.
Yep.
At town meeting.
I agree.
John?
So just to go in with your no blinders on, Jim, then Paul.
I would just like to chime in and say this is neither a super park nor a destination park. I think what we're having here is something that's more along the lines of a neighborhood area, and looking at the housing that's there and the children that are there that can be drawn to this. I think that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything that's huge or garish or anything like that. So saying super park and saying destination park, I don't see that at all. And I think that if people are thinking that way, I think you really have to change your thinking and come on board, because as I think everyone is seeing here, this is just a great idea. It's just a great idea.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you, John. I'll just start off by saying I'm in favor of this project. I think it's a great idea. We've been looking at this space for many years. I think we had called it New England Village. I think that may have been its original name at one point. And to see it revised and revisited by Ray, which isn't unlike what was the case with the Stone Arch Bridge, because that was something else that we had tried and couldn't move forward. And Ray and the fire department group moved forward with that and really made something of a spot that had a lot of potential, but it wasn't realized. I do agree that to a certain extent, these are two separate issues, one with Perry Hill Park and the other one with not Nelson Park, but the other space. But the issue to me is that in order to get Perry Hill Park to be changed in its designation to allow it to be used by affordable housing is kind of contingent upon this other project moving forward. So I don't think you can, look at them completely separately. Because if that other park goes away, I think we need to be prepared to include amenities that are in the Perry Hill Park today in this park. So that has to be part of what we consider as we move forward with it and make sure that we leverage it. I don't think we need to wait until that Perry Hill project is decided, because if in fact we find we can't use it, we can always not have the playground equipment moved there and continue to have it where it is and have a different use for the park. But to utilize that underutilized space in a neighborhood that is, I won't say neglected, but is in need of more amenities, I think is a wonderful idea. So thank you, Ray,
Okay.
for bringing it forward.
I'm gonna let Bruce and then Jen Thomas speak, but I want to just make one comment because there's a lot of good stuff going on. And have you talked to Dave Moradian about him helping you? Because isn't he the person that would be the person for the state that would help us if you
Yeah.
wanted to?
Yeah, Dave and Mike Moore. Yeah,
Because they
would help
their
us through
staff
this.
would do whatever needed
Correct.
to be done to at least tell you what needed to be done, and then do what they needed to do on their end to get their fellow legislators to
Correct.
vote in favor. So
Yeah, and I think Dave Robbins said that it kind of went through the process. It goes to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen have to vote to do that, and then contact the state legislature, and then Dave and Mike can take it through the through the Senate and the representatives.
okay, Bruce and then Jen Thomas.
So I just wanted to clarify a little bit. So when the Affordable Housing Trust was approached and we started this, we didn't know anything was in article or covered by Article 97. Since then, we kind of slowed down on it. What the original intent was, if this was a project that we were going to present to the town, the Affordable Housing Trust needed to know if the property that we thought was conducive for affordable housing was actually conducive for affordable housing. So by its nature of, this proximity and what we'd be doing, there was some efficiencies and some synergies to try to help get this project off the ground with the hopes of, at the very least, having the potential to grab that land. That was our sole purpose behind this. Article 97 confuses the thing a little bit, and of course it lengthens the time. So I'm sure I could go back to the trust and say, yes, this is the approach the town is taking, and perhaps we can get that property. But as of right now, we've kind of held those two biddings until we can, see what happens here, basically.
So you're Joanne. Yes.
Jen Anderson is asking a question. Is there a proposed cost of the park yet after design costs? Because I think Ray's coming for design costs. So she's asking, what are we looking at once that's done?
Okay. Let Ray answer that if you have an answer at this point.
Well,
for
no,
cost.
because the there is no cost for the park as far as construction or anything or infrastructure or anything like that, because we haven't got a design. So once we meet with recreation and collaborate on what's going to be there and how we're going to do this, then we can come up. As a matter of fact, Thompson and Liston has it's in their proposal to provide cost estimates for construction. So right now, no, we don't have any cost estimates.
Okay, and then I want to go back to what Bruce said. So Bruce, is Affordable Housing Trust going to take a wait and see on whether if it's approved by CPC, then it gets approved by the town, so that you want to make sure that the park will be relocated? Then you would work on having the Article 97 issue resolved so that it could be made affordable housing. Is that kind of, you're in the holding pattern for those things to happen first?
Well, I mean, we need to see if it's valuable to us to begin with. That's why we kind of lent, you know, our monies to get some work done because it had potential for us directly. If it doesn't have potential for us directly, we of course wouldn't contribute. So, I mean, there's a lot of hand holding here. But if there's no longer a synergy and there's no longer an appetite to move Perry Hill, we wouldn't do anything there. It's beyond the scope of our mission to go take stuff out of open space. If it's the direction of the town and they want to do that, then I guess that's a separate project entirely.
But I think that's like the whole 97 issue of, do we really have to replace that land? Does Whitney Park satisfy that, even though it's not new land? So, I mean, I think that's for you, for affordable housing, those issues have to be resolved before you can actually take the property to actually develop.
Yep. Yeah, just, understand where this started. It was just kind of, Ray came to us, said he has an idea for this. There's some synergies with us. The neighborhood is conducive for it. Article 97 just muddies everything up for us.
Right.
We don't want to get in the way if we can help a little bit. And then perhaps we have an opportunity to move forward with a project for us on its own. We felt comfortable lending some assistance with the synergies that we could provide.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Sorry.
question about this synergy thing that we keep talking about?
Okay, wait, Brooke,
Oh.
Jen's been
Oh,
waiting.
sorry,
so-
go ahead, sorry,
Sorry,
yep.
Jen, trying to be,
That's okay,
somewhat
Bruce,
clear.
Brooke can go.
okay,
Brooke can
Brooke, go
go.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I didn't want to jump, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know how does affordable housing pay for engineering of a park down the road from a place that they may put affordable housing and may not? I'm not sure how you can do that, and how that's in your scope. How you can use affordable housing funds, even though it may be a good idea. I just don't know how you can do it.
Well, what we would do, Brooke, is we would assess the property, see if we could actually develop it. And then we would have approached the town and said, hey, can we take this parcel into our portfolio to develop affordable
No, but
housing?
aren't you doing engineering for Ray's project, not for Perry Hill?
But they're not using CPC funds.
They're using affordable housing funds. How are they using affordable housing funds to do engineering on a park that's not affordable housing?
So what the trust was doing was trying to provide, we were going to go out and do the engineering, seeing that they were both abutting properties and we had to inspect the entire area around it anyways. We felt that we could provide the money for that as long as the town was able to partner with us to get, to allow us to get Perry Hill before the town to come over to us.
Well, I'm still not following because they don't abut, they're down the street. But I think you're playing fast and loose with money that's affordable housing money. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad idea to help Ray with engineering. I just don't know if you have the authority to use money that's there for affordable housing to do engineering for a park down the street where you have no intention of doing any affordable housing on. It seems a little fast and loose with affordable housing money.
That's fine. That's another issue that's beyond what you're talking about here. I will certainly take your concerns back to the trust and say that we do have some concerns that this is a little bit fast and loose. I don't know if I want to get into that here, but I'll certainly take that concern back to the trust.
Well, it has an issue here because part of the proposal is that you're going to do their engineering.
Well, see, that's the thing. We are not doing their engineering at this point. We took back that, or we withdrew our permission to actually do this. So we went out and we bid it. That's why we know what the price is. And then the trust withdrew its request or its inclination to move forward with it until we figured out what was going on with the whole Article 97 bid. So
Well, the grant application actually includes that as other funds, that Affordable Housing Trust is going to provide $1,600 for a civil site survey. I think that's maybe what Brooks is talking about.
And I get that completely. If this was part of a larger initiative for us to have the ability to acquire Perry Hill, this is something that the trust was comfortable participating in, as long as we had the ability to grab that parcel and put it under our portfolio. So this was essentially seed money. I don't think it's fast and loose. I think if you were there when we talked about this amongst the trust and what our goals were, it aligns well enough.
Well,
well, that's
you
a
may
question
think
for
so.
the-
It's not an abutting property. It's got nothing to do with affordable housing.
We'll see.
Your group may say that it is. I think you should get some sort of counsel on that, because I don't see how you can do any engineering for something down the road which has nothing to do with affordable housing in order to get another piece of property that the town may or may not get to you. As somebody said earlier, it's two separate issues. If it's two separate issues, these should be two separate issues. You go for your piece of property at Perry Hill, whether you can get it or not, and Ray goes ahead with his thing. I just don't know how affordable housing, I mean, it's affordable housing's money. It's not, to make deals with, but all right, go ahead. I'm done.
Okay,
As
sorry,
I-
Jen, Bruce, go ahead, finish up, yeah.
So just an abutting property, when we look at survey and engineering work for actually approaching this, we look at all the surrounding areas of it. So it would have some overlap. And if you look at traffic flow, you look at the neighborhood, you don't just look at direct abutting properties, you look at the whole area. But I guess, John, I probably shouldn't chase this rabbit. I should go back to the trust and say, make sure that we can actually do this if there are some concerns with the CPC, because we were looking for the synergy of the whole project. If it doesn't make sense, then we have to, take another look at it. But
Well, it just have that they have to be two separate projects because of the 97 issue clouding the title or the access to title for you.
it very well could be.
And it doesn't affect at all moving the playground equipment or the recreational facilities to Whitney Park. So we don't want one to negatively impact the other. I want to get back to Jen. Sorry about that.
Sure.
That's okay. I just wanted to clarify, I am not suggesting that park should not be upgraded. I just would envision something like a pavilion and benches and landscaping, and I think that would be a great project for the engine company. I am just against moving a playground to that parcel. I don't think that a historic common is a place for a big playground with a splash pad, but I'd be totally for upgrading Whitney Park as a green space and a place for people to go and do passive recreation. So that's it.
Okay, then I want to get back to Ray. I keep having all my little notes. Another conversation is with Washington Mills. I know you said some of the land which is between the Baptist church and what is the green part of Whitney Park really is Whitney Park, but
Yes.
they use that as their access. They drive their trucks through that. That doesn't mean that it's theirs because it's not. But again, as being a good neighbor and working with them, I think that's going to be with those trucks, because I think that's critical that they have ability to get their trucks back to the mill buildings behind you or whichever direction that is of Whitney Park. So as much as we need parking and for that park, if that's going to create a hardship for them, we want to make sure that all that's taken in consideration when they're doing all these designs.
Yep. So Washington Mills uses Mill Street to go from one plant to another. That the area behind where the Baptist church was, they've turned that into parking. They've obviously turned the area into landscaping and everything like that. And over the years, because of the paving up there, and I say paving, it's not paving. It's originally it was stone and stone, sand, and oil, and it just kept expanding. And that's how it all came about. But the plan is to sit down with Washington Mills and talk to them about this. But they primarily use Mill Street
Okay.
to go between the plants. I do want to talk about this in engineering. It's not engineering, it's survey. If the Affordable Housing Committee decides that they don't want to survey the property, that's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's $1,600. I can have that in 2 minutes. It's not a big deal, not a big deal. So, I don't want everybody to get into it as, how you're using the money, how you're not using the money. To us, it was a great gesture, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's not a big deal.
John,
Yes.
Jen Anderson has written in, a landscape architect was contracted for $34,000 for proposed design, estimated costs, and community outreach of a community park behind the library. Can you please confirm what Ray's proposal covers? Do you want me to bring the proposal up or?
You can, Joanne, I can explain what the.
Okay.
What the proposal covers is a design of a park based on a scope of work that I sent out to Stantec and Thompson and Liston. And what I sent out to them was that we wanted to move playground equipment from Perry Hill Park to Whitney Park. We also wanted to build a very small, and I say, when you hear splash pad, you think it's this huge thing. It's not. It's very, very small. We talked about the walkway that goes all the way around the property with the exercise paths, with seating, with trees, with seating for everybody, and a gathering space. That's really what we talked about. Are we gonna fill every inch of this park? No, we're not going to. It's gonna be quite a bit of it is going to be open. But in this proposal, Thompson and Liston provides all the engineering to do all of that work, and all of the to provide all of the parking, to design all of the parking, and also a landscape architect to design all of the landscaping. And that's part of the proposal.
I have 3 hands. I'm gonna let Kristen go first because she's on recreation. Then I'm gonna go to Brooke and then to Ken.
So the scope of work that you gave them, to give you the quote on, we have kind of implied during this meeting, we're maybe not in agreement with what is going in at this park exactly and what it's going to consist of. So is that something that, like, you don't have to have figured out on the front end? Like, it can change? Is that going to affect the costs for those designs if you start off incorporating a splash pad and all these other things that maybe we don't necessarily, recreation doesn't want to support, or we don't, at the end of the day, we decide it isn't in alignment with the open space plan or the recreation, plans that we have in place? Like, how does that work if you go out and get a quote and then what we actually put there winds up being something different? Is it a completely separate quote, or do they just plus and minus off what they gave you? How does that work?
It would be based on whatever the preliminary design is going to be. So the preliminary design will be done with, in conjunction with Engine Company 2 and the Recreation Commission. The proposal for what we have right now includes a lot of stuff. If a lot of stuff doesn't go in there, then that number gets decreased. This also includes construction administration for all of the construction and everything like that.
So in terms of the committee, this CPC, how does everyone feel about not necessarily knowing the total cost for this project and approving it on the front end?
Well, I think it's well worth it. This is something that has to happen before you do anything else. And if we look at the big picture here, and as Paul mentioned before, when we're looking at New England Village and things like that, had it not been for Rhodey Park, there would have been nothing done with that area at all. And I think what we're doing now is just taking the next great step forward and taking land that you can talk about passive recreation all you want, but that's not that far from just a dump. All right, unless you have something that's being done, something to facilitate bringing the members of that community together. And I think going down the road, that's something else that we'll talk about. But the ball's got to start here, and I think it's a great plan.
Ken has been waiting very patiently.
Okay, Ray, there was a question about what you think that the park will cost to construct. And I'm not particularly satisfied with the answer. So what we really want to know is, what does the Engine Company Association contemplate? What do you expect the price will be? Is it going to be 50,000, 100,000, 200, 500, $1 million? You know, what do you know, give us an expectation.
Well, you know, again, it all depends on what you're going to put in there, but I would expect it to be in
Right.
the
Well,
400. I would expect,
what's your vision?
I would
Your vision
expect
has to have a number on it.
right. I would expect it to be in the $400,000 range.
That's an answer.
Yep. And that's because there's, you know, if we were just taking the park and putting up a fence and doing everything on the inside, that would be, you know, that would be a little different. But we're creating parking. We're going to move existing granite curb to create parallel parking and things like that. And there's infrastructure work. So
Jen Thomas has her hand up.
Hi, yes, I would just be much more comfortable if Ray and the Recreation Commission got together, came up with a plan and decided what they wanted to see on that space, and then came to CPC and asked, because I feel like right now the ask is for something I'm not really sure specifically what exactly it's going to be. So I would be much more comfortable if Ray and Rec got together, came up with a plan and maybe a better idea of what the park might look like. And then I'd like to see that come back before CPC.
And I just want to say that we as Engine Company 2 have proposed this work in park the exact same way we did Roney Park. And we came to CPC, we asked for design money. You gave us the design money, and then you and the town gave us the construction money. We haven't done anything different on this park. I have every intention of working with recreation. I agree with Jim in that this needs to be done. And if we can get it, we can get the ball rolling. That's what I want to do.
John, can I say one thing?
Yes.
It just makes it really hard, Ray. You know, if we give money to your project, then we may have to take it away from one of the other items on our inventory list. So I have to go back to Recreation Commission and explain what your plan is and what we're voting for and what we're taking away from in other parks we might have, and decide if it lines up. So not really knowing, like Jen said, at this point, what it is we're talking about, it could be two completely different things, depending. Like, I need to know what it is before I decide I want to take that money away from potential other uses in town. So it's like Jen said, I think it would be better for the two of us, when you're putting together your scope of work, for us to be involved, to come together united with the plan. This is what we want to do for this space, and then vote on it at that point.
I'm not sure if, does Sandy do you have your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to, I know I can use the actual
No,
program,
but I
but
didn't know if you're, we do something at school on the kids.
yeah, no.
I was like, I didn't know if you were doing a little dance or what you were doing.
So I'm listening to the conversation and I'm wondering if there is a way to move forward and get a sense of what it is and instead of, looking at the whole design is to do a conceptual design. If you've got, Liston Thompson involved, I mean, typically on projects, you're going to go through a conceptual phase and then into SD until you get to your CDs and things like that. Why not move ahead with that initial um, conceptual design so that I think it's a lot easier instead of just saying, I want this, I want that, is to really have something in front of you that shows what's going on so that you can everyone can move forward and be on the same page instead of just words. I think it's very helpful to put it on a plan. And I'm not sure how the full breakdown is of the contract, but typically you're going to have early submittals. And that would be like a stopping point to say, yeah, this is the point where we need to kind of decide on the program, because that's really what you're talking about is what's the program of this project, right? What you have a park, you're going to have a program. What's the program components? If you have the program components, you can do a cost estimate. And I'm sure the folks at, Thompson Liston can certainly do conceptual / SD level so that they can say, here's the concept. This is kind of a much better cost estimate, but then you can have those conversations with recreation and have something really to look at and review as opposed to nothing and having a conversation or full designs. I think there's someplace in between for a process to go through. That's kind of my thought about moving something forward, but not doing everything.
John,
Yes.
I've brought Jen Anderson in because she has her hand up. She has a question.
Okay. Yep. Jen.
No, I think, thank you. Sandra just actually said it. I just wanted to, understand, I guess, that number more clearly because like I said, for the community park behind the library for $34,000, we were able to lay out what we wanted conceptually, get that cost. And then there's obviously the cost associated with building the park. So then there was design, survey, permitting cost, for $80,000 based on that price. So just wondering if we can look at a simpler, more like said, conceptual plan to get that. What is this going to cost before you guys commit to maybe funding the whole park, long term? And again, I don't know if I should if I should be speaking personally. I'm not speaking for the Recreation Commission. I mean, I am personally, obviously, for beautifying this park in general. I think, again, personally, it could be maybe more simplified. I think it might be a little overzealous to try to be putting in the number of amenities that being talked about in this one little space, and would love to hopefully get the funding that planning is asking for the town's master plan so we can prioritize the parcels in town and where we should be putting money. I mean, we just got 93 North Street, those sorts of things. So I think there's a way to go about it without, getting, too much more than what CPC can maybe handle right now. Thank you.
And a couple other, since you're talking about plans or conceptual plans, I don't know, Ray, were you ever able to reach Dave Therian with Historical Commission or Sargon Hanna, I believe? Because I know both the Historical Commission and Sargon at different times have paid consultants, landscape architects, to come up with conceptual plans for what should be there. And I think this is what, people in town always get upset that we pay out for all these plans, but they sit on a shelf. Historical paid for that with a grant from the Turnpike Authority, so we technically didn't use town funds. And Sargon, I believe, either he did it or their church did it because they were looking at, again, a way like you're trying to do to beautify that park. But I think there's a whole lot of work that's already been done, and I sure hate to have people have to repeat it if you've already spent good money, not once, but twice. And you may be doing very similar work that these other people have already planned.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to Sargon. I didn't even know that they did anything over there at all. Yeah, I just want to say that you know, we are more than happy to work with recreation. As a matter of fact, we want to work with recreation. We don't know anything about public parks. We don't know how to design them. But unfortunately, to go by the rules of CPC, I have to file my request now. I don't get funded until July. So between the end of February to July, all of this could get worked out. And I don't, you know, I'm just going by the rules. This is the rules. These are the rules that I have to go by, and that's what I'm going by. Do I want to do it?
Excuse me, Ray?
Yeah.
The way we propose to fund it, the funds would be available. No, you're right. They're, yeah, July 1st.
July 1st. So there is, as I said, there's a lot of time between now and July 1st. And if things don't work out, you can pull it from town meeting. You don't have to do anything. But if we don't move forward, then I'm going to be back in October. We're not going to have any plans. We're going to have multiple meetings with recreation, and we're going to come up with a scope of work. But we can come up with a scope of work between now and July. And that's all I'm asking is I'm following the rules here and going by, you know, the filings and things like that. It is February, and there is a lot of work to be done. And the work between now and July is not going to cost a dime. So that's my take on it.
Typically in the past, when we've had issues like this, I say come back at the next meeting, that if there are other discussions that need to be had, then that needs to take place first, that you need to have all of the ducks lined up. It's the timeline is not to rush people to get to the application filing date. It's because we have to have it to the selectmen, I think it's 45 days before town meeting. So we're kind of beholden to that, either rule or our state charter regulation for us. But if it's not ready, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, because a lot of projects do have to wait 6 months or a year, and then they come back, they're ready, they get approved, and they move on. And it's it happens. It's just that with a lot of questions unanswered, people are not going to be as comfortable then to know exactly what's going to be there. You know, what are we paying for? That will be the question at town meeting. And maybe you'll have more answers at that point. Paul.
All right, thank you, John. Just one question. When you mentioned a couple of plans that have already been developed, I remember Sargon coming not that long ago, within the last year or two. But the one with the Historical Commission, is that a reference to New England Village and those plans? Which are much longer
That
ago?
was when I think Linda Casey was the chairman of the Historical Commission, that we got money from Mass Turnpike Authority. And
I sent those plans to both Ray and Bruce the
All right,
first
so
time Ray
I just want to
came.
make sure they have them, because those were pretty developed. There were drawings and everything.
yeah, it was a
associated with those.
very nice.
Didn't we buy
and-
benches too?
But I think it was more on what Jen Thomas and Kristen and maybe Jen Anderson were saying, more on passive recreation rather than active recreation, that there maybe was a bandstand and, you know, or benches and trees and landscaping and improved parking, but not heavy playground use.
It didn't look like there was a lot of playground equipment at Perry Hill Park. And that's a pretty big space. You could always tuck it in the corner if that ever came to fruition, without really, in my mind, really deterring from the park from being passive for the rest of it. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that they had access to all that work that had been done
Mhm.
because there was a lot of
And
good
that
work.
that
done.
actually was very involved because we had 2 or 3 public meetings that the community came. They expressed what they would like. That, we brought him, and just already forgot his name. He was chairman. Jeez, chairman of the planning board. But anyway, Bruce had his hand up. Keith Regan.
Just Joanne did send us the concepts for like the open space and what they want to do, benches and stuff like that. It really wasn't what we needed. We needed to know where, streets were, where, and the actual survey work to know what we were dealing with. So since Brooke had made those comments, I went through what we had discussed at that meeting and then what our bid specs were. And I think I don't want to speak too much for the whole trust, but of course I'm here now, having talked as much as I have. I think the premise was that we were looking at both parcels to see which was more suited for us. As part of the overall theme, we also included 25 Worcester Street, which of course had come over to us. So we were looking at both parcels. And then one of these parcels may be more conducive for recreation. One of them may be more conducive for us. I think that's the general premise of what we were looking for, because we were looking for something a little bit more comprehensive than just survey work. But the survey work as part of those bids was $1,600. So I don't know if that clears it up anymore. It's been like an hour and a half now, so or it makes it more confusing. But we were looking at sites exclusively for what we wanted to do with it, and then having to negotiate with the town if we could have, they had an appetite for one, very similar to how we approached Hudson. So. But what Joanne had sent us wasn't sufficient for what we needed to do to base any of our conclusions on.
Right. I think that was strictly landscape design. That was a landscape architect that did
That's
the
it.
plans. That was it. It was not engineering. It was not survey work.
John, Jen Anderson has written in, she put agreed Paul can move playground to there if need to after. Sorry, it was the first time I could get in there.
Okay. Paul has a hand up.
Oh, that was from before, sorry.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
If I could just say, as we talk about what we're gonna put in there, I think we have to look at the neighborhood and the discussion here about passive and active recreation. I mean, we're not, this location is not Forest Lane and Maxwell Drive, all right? This is in a community where there are a lot of younger people that could benefit from a playground and things like that. So this really identifies the need for that area of the town. And I think this is really something that we need to move forward on. As Ray said, that you're not going to have anyone going out with a request to this design company until after July, and you have plenty of time for everybody to get together and get a conceptual opinion done, bring the people together, but we really need to move this forward right now. Thank you.
And just to ask, or not to ask, but to your point, is what is the need of the neighborhood? Did recreation survey this area? Or, I mean, I don't think you probably did neighborhood by neighborhood or north, center, south for the open space and recreation. Does that plan address this neighborhood at all in terms of what the neighbors want or would like? Kristen or Jen Anderson?
I can speak if I'm on.
Okay.
No, for the neighborhood specifically, I mean, I've been working with DPW and engineering as to what we can do to develop that dilapidated asphalted area next to the playground at Perry Hill. and had intended to go and do, community outreach in that neighborhood. And then with going for the super park in COVID, I put that, on the side, but I'm trying to pull up the open space and recreation plan as I'm saying this, but I know that it did say something to the effect of, if we were to add another playground, we should look at so-and-so area, which I believe was to be more towards past the center, pushing South Grafton area. I'd have to pull that up, but Perry Hills has not been on our list, and that's why I've just been saying, I think it needs to be separate. If we can make Whitney Park look great, because it looks horrible. But, let's deal with the, playground and Perry Hill maybe after the fact.
If I may jump in on the open space and recreation plan, the action plan is specifically identified as one of the goals or actions to improve recreation opportunities for underserved areas. Given the existence of Perry Hill Park, right, almost adjacent to Whitney Park, it's probably, you probably would not say in terms of the type of playground equipment that's currently at Perry Hill Park, you couldn't say that the area is underserved, and except to the extent that Perry Hill Park itself may be less than what we'd like to see.
You have, though, there was language, I think, in the actual recreation section besides the goals saying, where we should, focus another playground. But again, I think the playground is separate. I think Whitney Park, is a great passive recreation space.
John, may I jump in for a minute? I don't want to stick my nose in where it shouldn't be, but this has been going on for a very long time. There's another month before the committee needs to vote on this. It may serve everyone well to end this tonight, and maybe discussions around the open space and rec plan should be held with the appropriate people. And some of this worked out, and folks come back in March and you guys can make a decision.
Okay, I don't see any more hands, so thank you for reminding me I'm over my 15-minute promised discussion.
Slightly.
Even though this is important. So I don't see any more hands. So thank you, Ray. Thank you for everybody's comments on this. But it is also getting late. It's 9:15. So
Thank you, everybody.
okay.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate you guys doing this.
No,
problem.
I thank you, Ray, too.
Thank you, Ray.
So we're back to any other potential warrant articles. I think there were a couple that did not come to pass. So
We have some, the changes in the sunset provisions, right?
Yeah, John, I do want to, I have a screen I want to share,
okay.
if I can find it. There we go. So I was working with Ken a little bit because, and Ken, thank you for reminding me about the transfer of the Affordable Housing Trust. I'll get that one written. So for this town meeting, you will need to do your reserves and your appropriation for the community administrative expenses. So Ken has, I left it as 24,000, which is what it was last year. Ken has popped in for us in green what your reserves will be, as well as then what your budgeted reserve will be.
Those numbers need to be finalized with the town accountant.
Yep. He also filled in for the Pell Farm bond payment, the Grafton Townhouse bond payment. Then with the sunset provisions, so I've drafted the one for the Lions Club property, the Cisco Homestead, and Weights and Measures. All three of these are looking to extend them. So the recreational improvements for the Lions Club, I'm assuming they only need another year. The Cisco Homestead, I gave them actually 2 years. I don't know why I did that, but Justin, for some reason, I felt in my gut Ray might need that, but maybe if you don't mind following up with her.
I'll follow up with Ray to see how long she thinks they'll need.
It'll be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've seen
And-
all the emails I've gotten from Ray lately as well, so.
Yes, yes. And I think she actually owes you one. So, you know,
Yes.
we'll get that, if we can just get that finalized before next meeting. And Jim, would you reach out to Dennis and ask him and make sure that 1 year is good for them?
I believe he said it was.
Okay. And then I believe Weights and Measures just needs the 1 year, because the point of that is just to move the cabinet to the library.
And the thought is that hopefully it will even be done and
Okay.
moved before town meeting.
June
but it
30th.
Just
right.
depends.
Yep, understood.
Right.
Paul, you don't need one for Grafton Common.
Am I on mute? Can you hear me? I don't
Yeah,
think
now I
I'm
can
on
hear you.
there. We are going to be moving forward with signing a contract with the general contractor well before the sunset. Question has come up as to whether or not that means that the town has encumbered the funding that was approved at town meeting for, you know, the entire parcel of funding versus just what is in the contract. Part of the funding that we requested included contingency funding, and we don't know if that'll be needed or not. But if it is needed and the town has signed a contract with the contractor, you know, they've basically got an unfunded mandate if that that funding is pulled. So we've had some dialogue with town council, Jenny Kramer, and we've also reached out to our new financial planner, Mary Loria, and she has actually looped back in with the new town administrator. It's Evan Broussard, right? I believe
Yes.
that's his name. Yeah. So she agrees in theory with what Jenny had suggested. I had suggested to her that, you know, again, if the town signs a contract, we are actually on the hook for it. So if we pull the funding for the contingency money and then it proves we need it, we're still on the hook for that. And she agrees with that in concept. She had reached out to some other kind of legal advice group, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which one it was, but they had provided feedback that we should get the opinion of town council, which I pointed out we already did. And, you know, she basically agreed that, you know, with the logic. And I will say, and I believe Ken would back me up on this, that at least twice it's come up before. I know with the townhouse it came up, and the prior town accountants had agreed with that philosophy that the funding is encumbered once we've signed that contract, the entire amount of funding. So we're just waiting for a final call on that. And Mary Loria wanted to get Evan's, you know, opinion on it, and he hadn't actually started in his role yet. So I believe this was his first week. So I've been leaving it alone. I know that Andy DeShane is having some conversations with him because we're moving forward with our RFP. We'll be going out shortly with that. And so I mentioned this to him too, just to make sure that he's aware that it's the same project that both topics are coming from. So hopefully we'll have that resolved soon. I suppose you could put sunset provision extension in here as a safeguard in case, you know, he has a different opinion. I'm hoping not to. I think it would be unfortunate for us to, you know, put a project in potential peril of not having it approved when the town has already approved that funding and we're actually moving forward with the project. It just doesn't seem right. And, you know, this it can come up again, and I'd like to avoid it. One of the things that we had for advice from Ginny Kramer was that we don't have to actually use the language that we have for the sunset provision as it stands today. We could, instead of having it go back to town meeting, have it come back to CPC with a 2/3 vote to approve a extension of the sunset. And to my way of thinking, I wasn't on the committee back when the sunset provision was first devised. I do know that we had a project that it wasn't being used and we had no mechanism to get that funding back. And that was our intent, was to have a mechanism to get the funding back if a project isn't moving forward. So it would seem that having the wording in there that the committee could vote on that would achieve that means without, putting, viable projects in potential jeopardy when that wasn't our intent.
I was planning to use that wording that she offered up in the warrant articles that I draft for any upcoming projects that you might approve for this town meeting, so we can you guys can debate that wording at the next meeting.
Yeah, it was essentially that instead of going to town meeting for approval, that you go to CPC with a 2/3 vote to allow the extension. I don't have the exact wording in front of me right now, but
Am I the
I'll bring
only
it
one
to-
that thinks that Paul Scarlett has a mohawk?
He does.
it is almost a mohawk, but it's not that thin.
He got a little crazy with those clippers.
I did. Ease of maintenance, guys.
Okay.
Okay, so Paul, I'll draft one for us to have for next month. It can even go on to the warrant and be pulled. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. And hopefully between now and then we'll have resolution.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Joanne, for doing that. Do we want to quickly just run down open projects, or do people, if you have, how about if you have a report to give, chime in, otherwise I see Bruce Spinney. Bruce has a report, yes, because I asked him and he's staying late and I apologize.
Yeah, that's right. I feel I get you back by adding at least another hour and 15 minutes to your Whitney Park discussion. A couple weeks ago, I got an email from Joanne. Chris and I had discussed it originally when John, you texted me today. I had not realized that we had not published anything. So I need to get something to you, so I'm gonna need to get with Chris and Natalia tomorrow. I did reach out to MCO as well, but they weren't able to provide the actual statistics to me this evening. So instead of just saying I wasn't gonna show up tonight, I figured I would show up, take any questions or comments or concerns or something specific that this committee might have asked, and make sure that a report that I provide you tomorrow via email is more comprehensive. So
If I can jump in, Natalia and I had a few conversations, and as of February 12th, $23,335 of the CPA funds had been spent of the rental assistance money. The CARES Act money, the 100,000 had been used, and that was all that had then been used at that point of CPA funds. But what we don't know, Bruce, is I think what the committee would be looking for is like how many applications came in, how many were, I don't want to say verified, approved. And then, the final funds. Chris did email me and Natalia asking for final numbers because he wants to have the transfer set up to move the money back to CPC at the 1st of March.
sure.
Okay.
Right,
So we can,
MCO has all that information, plus the demographic information, plus the study we asked them to do to see which applicants we were reaching, why we were getting so many applicants, but nobody following through. A lot of it had to do with the amount that we had set wasn't nearly as much as they were getting through other programs, which then, of course, knocked them out of contention for ours. Anyways, I will get those from you from Hagan and that group. We always get an update on Friday anyways, so I'll make sure it's me that does the update so I can get the information. Does anybody else have anything that they want to see in that report? Statistical information, any comments or concerns or things like that?
Were you pleased with MCO, how the operation, because I know this was totally new for everybody. Were you happy with the way it worked and the way that they were able to reach people and to be able to help people with the funds?
Are you asking me personally? Because I can't speak for the trust, but
No, well, but for your experience as the chairman or as a member of the committee, right?
yeah, not as a member of the committee. Personally speaking from this process, it left me a little bit wanting. Not, that doesn't include MCO. MCO has been terrific, but more about the way we can approach people and how we can get into people's homes. It's very cumbersome. It's not easy without a good outlet. And there's not a lot of, on the federal level and on the state level, there's not a lot of places that you can go to get all of the information. It's very haphazard across the board. So, but that's my personal opinion on it. I would go back to the trust. When we review the project, when we're finished with it, we will certainly want to take a look at, everything that's transpired and try to take all the information that we have and see if it actually was a good fit and a worthwhile endeavor.
I think if you help people, it was a worthwhile endeavor. It maybe just was a bigger learning curve than anybody intended to get to it. And it's unfortunate that the state that we think has a good safety net doesn't have a really good safety net, and the pieces of it don't communicate. Everything's pretty siloed.
Well, I can say for a fact that we helped people. So people did use the program. They came back to the program. It did help some Grafton residents, stay in their homes. So in that regard, it's a success. Could it have been more of a success or something like that? That's the type of stuff we need to take a look at now and see where it went astray. Or if, there were programs out there that just kind of superseded what we were trying to do and it was just easier to navigate. One of the things a lot of the big rental complex that had larger companies that own them and were part of, even larger companies that own them, had apparatus in place already for a lot of their tenants who were falling behind on their rents. So, and whether they got grants or whether they get subsidies on their level, I don't know about those now, but those are the type of things that we want to find out. Because we reached out to a lot of people in a lot of the larger complexes, and we didn't get nearly the feedback that we thought we were going to.
So, well, it's good that you had the ability to help those that you did help. So we appreciate all that you did
Without a
on their
doubt.
behalf.
So anyways, Joanne, I'll call Chris in the morning and see if I can get the rest of that. We realize everything's switching back over to us, but the program's coming to an end anyways. The trust is going to meet again to see if they want to extend it, but we're all under the impression that that's going to come out of the trust side's funds anyways. So if you guys can think of anything, just let me know so I can add it to it. I think the 28th is the cutoff. So for us to switch over to us. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All you do, Bruce.
That, and you guys have a good night. Is that all you needed me for, John?
Yeah, sorry you had to spend your whole night.
Oh, no, that's just fine. Fine. I have plenty of stuff I could do in the background. That's why my video is not on.
Okay.
Bye now,
So
guys.
are there, thank you. Any other reports, updates for project updates? Otherwise, if they're not, Paul, do you want to add anything on the common, or is it pretty much the same as last month's report?
Well, we're getting ready to move forward with the RFP. Andy was, as I mentioned before, meeting with Evan Broussard. I think he's meeting tomorrow, actually. It was either today or tomorrow. And, it's just a matter of putting together the RFP and getting it advertised. And then we will get bids in and pick a general contractor and move forward with the project. In addition to that, we have some lights that are going to be incorporated into the archways that will be part of the project, and we want to get those going as fast as we can because there's a 4 to 6 week lead time on getting those. And once we have them, then whoever is hired to construct them needs to have those lights already. And so we didn't want to delay it. So we're going to do that separately. And we're also looking to retain the arborist that we had hired for the initial part of the project to be there on site during the construction to help make sure that we mitigate any potential damage to the trees. So it's all moving forward. Our hope is that the project will actually, construction-wise, kick off in the early spring and move forward. So I can give more detail later. I think everyone's probably pretty tired now.
Okay, I think there might be a hand by Justin. Is that your hand?
Yes, I wanted to bring up what Elizabeth Spinney put in the Q&A anyway, which was like the Farmers Market Committee is looking for an estimated start and expected completion dates if possible of the Common project. I know they want to be able to use that, the Common if possible for at least some of the Farmers Market season.
We had already provided input to the town administrator's office that for all intents and purposes, no one should be planning on using the Common for this summer. Our hope is that, ideally we would like to have the project done in time for the July 3rd concert, but the reality is even once the construction is done, the grass has to take before we can allow people to really be on there, because there's going to be a lot of, grass that's going to need to grow and take root before people are milling about on there. So my suggestion is no one plan to use the Common during the summer. Our hope is that, certainly by the fall, it'll be ready. So things like the Apple Pie Festival will be able to go on, the Apple Pie Social, I think it's called. But certainly the Mill Villages Park is available as an
Can I
alternative.
interrupt? May I, can I?
Yep.
Yes.
This is kind of what I do. So, yes, Cindy and I are suggesting that people look at the Mill Villages Park, Nelson Park, but that the Common is not going to be rented out or made available at all during the summer.
I think Andy also said, which is something that we kind of forget about, that because of COVID, probably restrictions for large gatherings won't be allowed probably until September 1st anyway. So I think that's another big unknown with the slow rollout of vaccines that that's going to hold up. Even if everything's all ready to go, we still can't have huge gatherings. So, okay, thank you, Paul. Unless there are any other reports, Justin.
Motion to adjourn?
Just,
Justin.
just
had his hand
another
up.
thing in the Q&A, just to say it out loud, that Elizabeth Spinney just did a follow-up. The Farmers Market goes through October. So when there is an estimated completion date, that'll be very helpful. Thank you. I just wanted to.
Yeah, until we have a general contractor hired, it's very hard to estimate, but we'll certainly make sure that we have the communication channels open on that.
Liz, I would just recommend that you stay in contact with the TA's office.
Good advice.
Okay, thank you very much. I did hear a motion by Jim
Motion to
Gallagher.
adjourn?
Is there a
Second.
second?
At
Second,
9:38 PM.
all those in favor, hang on. Jen Thomas,
Yes.
John Stevens, yes. Kristen,
Yes.
Justin,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ken,
Yes.
Jim Gallagher,
Gallagher, aye.
Sandy,
Yes.
and Brooke.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Sorry if this was so long.